What made you make that switch and decide the skills you had in the operatory could translate outside the operatory as well?
When it comes to patient care, I took that very seriously. That really allowed me to get into switching things off into tech. They knew that I was definitely destined for something more.
The change during COVID, was that a scary time for you, or did it feel very natural to see what was next?
It just opened my mind to be, more mindful about tech and what opportunities there are out there and how my experience as a clinician can help impact the world of tech in dentistry. I've always saw myself, even as a DA, I wanted to learn more. Continue to be open-minded to those opportunities because you never know what you get out of that. Always strive for more.
I've always had just one goal for Dental Assistant Nation, and that was to reach as many dental assistants around the world as I possibly could. So thank you for being a part of the community, and I want to make sure that you have hit the subscribe button so that you can not only help us spread the message and we can grow our reach, but also to make sure that you are getting the latest episodes delivered right to you the moment that we drop them. We are all about dental assistant education and empowerment here at Dental Assistant Nation, and we want to make sure that we are reaching as many dental assistants as possible. So thank you in advance, not only for being a part of this community, but for helping us spread the word. Hey everybody, welcome back into another edition of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. My name is Kevin Henry, founder of Dental Assistant Nation. Last week we had a podcast talking about dental assistants and moving out of the operatory, taking that next step in their career. And that's why we have on somebody today that I know is going to help us continue that conversation, and that is Treneice Negron. How are you, Treneice?
Doing well, Kevin. Thank you for having me.
I am so glad you're on. I can't wait to dive into your story and your advice for dental assistants. But before we do that, I'd just love for our audience to know a little bit more about you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, back in 2018, I feel like dentistry really chose me in a way. So I've had quite about a years of being a dental assistant and then driving myself into different fields of tech. And I'm just super excited to share my story all together. Currently working with SOTA Cloud, which is exciting. And just overall here to answer any questions you may have. And I see how I could be of assistance to anyone else looking to move alongside that.
Well, let's start with that story. What made you make that switch and decide that the skills you had in the operatory could translate outside the operatory as well?
Well, to be completely honest, when I first even chose to get into dentistry, I actually went through a career source center that I took an exam, and it allowed me to really identify my strengths. The results really indicated that being a dental assistant was going to be impactful for me. And once I got in, I was in I was in like Aspen Dental or like franchises like that, where I led all various specialties, going from general to OS to endo. And I just felt that, being chairside was very impactful to share I guess the best words to say. When it comes to patient care, I took that very seriously. Okay. And that really allowed me to get into switching things off into tech. I actually switched into practice management during COVID because, during COVID, it was very impactful for all VAs, all clinicians all together. Yeah. So I had an opportunity to work in practice management, and the key thing to me was patient care. So when I went into tech, that was my main reason for wanting to continue that out. When I was in practice management, that was driving my main focus. So I was helping dentists, helping clinicians really learn the software and how they could continue and facilitate that throughout their patient experience. Making it easy to get the patient in and out of the office and bringing that experience from me being front and back end, from insurance to, getting their x-rays taken to filing claims. I was having that full-on experience. I think anytime you get into tech, you really start from a support end. So I worked my way into support, learning the product, then led me into implementation, and then it kind of led me into other various opportunities where now I'm in imaging, and that's even more impactful for me because when I only focus on imaging, I really aligned with where I came from.
And was technology something you were always drawn to or more drawn to when you got into dentistry?
I would say I was more drawn to it when I've gotten into dentistry because I was always wondering what's next.
And I love that because I think that's the mentality so many dental assistants should have if they don't already is what's next? How can I grow? Things like that. You talked about the change during COVID. Was that a scary time for you or did it feel very natural to see what was next?
Well, I think it was a very scary time for me because, we were having 3 sets of masks on and, having face shields, and
Yes.
that's when I was really wondering, "Okay, well, how are we in this economy gonna be going through this as clinicians?" And then it just opened my mind to be, more mindful about tech and, what opportunities there are out there and how, my experience as a clinician can help impact the world of tech in dentistry.
So once you decided to kind of make that switch, what were the key things that you needed to feel confident in moving forward in your career?
I would say just being adaptable because, as I mentioned, I started out in support. So I had to really learn the products, open my mind up to having that experience of front and back end from a practice management standpoint. And as I just kind of led myself into implementation and other various opportunities, I just felt that just being open minded, always being able to bring back that experience of being in the office and what they are going through and how you can help drive them to learn the product and to excel in it and feel confident in it.
How did the clinical skills that you learned as a dental assistant help you now in what you're doing and in the path along to this point?
I would say most definitely in SOTA Cloud and imaging, being able to see dental assistants learn how, because, when you're a dental assistant, especially ESDAs, how you have certifications in x-rays, making sure that they understand exposure, making sure they understand placement, leading that into image quality, working with dentists, and I'm sure, of course, making sure that the workflows are seamless for us, the dental assistants, to get in and out, the software, streamlining their workflows altogether. And also with SOTA Cloud, you have so many different features that we didn't have, I personally didn't have when I was being experienced in sharing referrals or sharing with patients there. That what we educated them in the chair. So there's a lot of neat features with the product that I'm working with now that I feel are very impactful, and it's great because it's a much more modern text than what has been out there. So it's really nice to, it's a little scary for dentists and clinicians at first, but they're
Yeah.
actually realizing how easy it is to use and how much better it is for the practice overall.
What was that conversation like whenever you went to the dentist or you went to your superior, shall we say, and said, I'm leaving to go do other things? What was that like?
Well, they were always very supportive. I've always found myself, even as a DA, I wanted to learn more, especially with the specialties, because I loved all the goriness. I loved the OS. I loved the
There you go.
perio. So I think being always interested in wanting to do more, wanting to, organize their equipment and things like that, they knew that I was definitely destined for something more and to continue to align it in dentistry. They were just very supportive overall.
All right, I want to go back to that point because you said, you were organizing things, and I'm guessing that wasn't something that people were asking you to do. That was something you were doing on your own. Why? What was it that drove you to do those little things that maybe were outside your job description?
Just making life easier for all of us.
Okay.
I just feel like, if I could go ahead and do certain setups, if I could keep the implants organized the way that they should be, it allowed us to get through patient experience much easier and just, you don't have to run around looking for things. Everything's right exactly where it needs to be. But that I think ties into, remember, I took that test, and honestly, one of my strengths is definitely organization. And I just wanted everything to be neat, nice, organized, and it just helped. And just taking that extra step allowed them to see the benefits that they have having me on board as a DA.
So if you could go back 5 years ago and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. I'm actually really proud of how far I've come, and I think that if I could give myself any advice is to just continue to always strive for more. Continue to, there's always difficulties when you're in the clinical field of having different providers, especially in franchises. And, sometimes they're short staff and you just have to kind of move around and be in places that you never expected to be. But to continue to be open minded to those opportunities because you never know what you get out of that, the experiences that you get out of that. Some good scenarios of that is, like I had mentioned, I learned different specialties. And sometimes it really was because they were short staffed. So I'd be in Pendo for one day. And being with a specialist compared to just doing it in general dentistry is night and day. But at the end of those, long days too, or, when I had those opportunities, I was so grateful at the end of it because of the experience and the things that I've learned out of it that allowed me to kind of think, okay, well, now I have something else under my belt.
Yeah, and being that person as a dental assistant who does a variety of different things and being adaptable, as you said, did that prepare you in a way for your career outside of dentistry and what was to come?
Oh, yeah. Because in software, there's always new updates. Also, I feel like it's very important for us to be in this environment because we have all the experience to bring to software. They act for our opinion when it comes to workflows. I think that's super impactful because when there are updates and things of that nature, we have some gratitude that this is going to help the office altogether, front or back end. So no matter where you are in tech in some way, somehow, as software and technology continues to evolve, I mean, we went from films to sensors to cameras being required, and now we have iTero scans. There's just so much going on and it's going to continue to evolve. Even on that point with AI, like AI is so impactful in this time of in dentistry. So I feel like all that allows us to, again, voice our opinion on how it's going to help, also understand that it's a little bit different and how the office is going to react to it. So I think, just being adaptable, being open-minded, I continue to lead with that because it's going to change and it's up to us to really help the community evolve with it.
I know there are some dental assistants who are listening to this going, we're still stuck back in here. We haven't progressed forward with technology or anything else. And I know they're frustrated by that. Is there advice that you would share about maybe how to help the practice break free and move forward a little bit, maybe?
I'm a huge advocate for going to conferences because conferences allow you to see your peers, your neighbors that are also going through the same things as you. But as you're continuing to learn about the technology, you're able to kind of see how it maybe aligns a little bit better with what you want to advocate for the practice. Even in a sense of AI, I was drawn back from seeing how we're now educating patients because we're so used to black and white images and now we can actually see the anatomy of their teeth and explain that because I didn't see that. And so I was actually learning about that in dental assisting school. So now to bring that into real life, I think that's very impactful. And you lead with that. If I come in as a dental assistant for an office that hasn't really expanded to that route, it's more showing and telling and having your entire team be available at conferences like that. It kind of everyone's opinion getting into it. That's really exciting.
I love that. I love being able to get out of the office and see what's going on in the real world around us. That's fantastic. So, last question for you. What advice would you give to an assistant who maybe says, that's what I want to do?
Go for it.
Okay.
Try it. You're always going to be able to go back into the dental office because that's something that is always going to be under your belt. But if you can try getting into software and it's something that's gratifying for you and you could take your experience and lead with it, you're going to soon enough realize, I don't think I might want to go back. Or again, it's always in your back end, but it's different. And I also feel like anytime I go into a dental office where my routines, I always get asked, what do you do? And I'm so excited to let them know what I do because I'm, like I said, I'm very proud of it. And I'm just such a huge advocate for other dental assistants to get involved.
I love that. And I know I said last question, but I got to ask you this. Whenever you mentioned that you were a dental assistant, the other dental assistants' eyes light up, kind of going,
Oh,
oh,
yeah.
yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, that's a key connection, right?
Yeah. Well, I even lead with I'm in sales for SOTA Cloud. I lead in my demos that I'm an assistant. So anytime I get on a call and I'm with a dentist, office manager, back end, I let them know, hey, I'm on this demo with you, but I'm a former assistant and I'm going to assist you through this product.
Treneice, I love that. I love that you lead with that. And absolutely, I want to make sure, because you made the jump to SOTA imaging, I want to make sure people know SOTA Cloud. What do they need to know about it and how can they learn more?
Well, SOTA Cloud is a cloud-based imaging software that's taking over imaging. It's modern tech and it guides you through easy, quick workflows. I'm such a huge advocate for it because, like I said, at the DA, we didn't have these things. You have small icons where you might be clicking on something and doing the same thing as something else, and it kind of gets confusing. And You don't need that in the office. You just need a product, especially with imaging, that you're getting in and out of, and it's helping you and the practice altogether. I got such a huge advocate for it that after having this podcast and having my marketing team get together with me as of recent, I'm going to be doing more videos on LinkedIn and also other platforms to continue
Nice.
to educate the world all about SOTA Cloud, because it's definitely something that needs to be done.
Love that. So we're going to make sure to follow you on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah. Treneice
Okay.
Negron.
Awesome. Well, hey, here's the good news, dental assistants. We're going to put Treneice's LinkedIn profile in the show notes, as well as the link so that you can learn more about SOTA Cloud as well. Treneice, I've enjoyed the conversation, and I'm thankful that you're out there always leading with, I'm an assistant. I think that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me, Kevin. I'm super honored. And again, huge advocate for any DAs that are looking to get into tech. Always here to help.
Well, appreciate that, and appreciate all of you for listening to this episode of the Dental Assistant Nation podcast. Again, as I said last week, yes, we want you to stay in dental assisting. We want you to be a dental assistant, but we also know so many of you are looking for that next step, and that's why we've talked about this for the last 2 weeks. Make sure you go back to listen to my episode with Teresa Duncan. That was episode 404. Make sure you go back to listen to that, and make sure you take the advice from her and Treneice to heart. Until next time, it's Kevin Henry, the founder of Dental Assistant Nation, signing off, and as always, wish you nothing but success ahead.